You're watching Oklahoma's News 4 at 10.
This is unprecedented to the history of the auditor's office, and an auditor has never been met with this much intimidation tactics or stonewalling.
Tonight, the epic fallout continues. The charter school online with over 60,000 students. Finally, we're hearing Epic's side of this story.
Last week, the state ordered the virtual charter school to pay more than $11 million. And while the virtual charter board voted to end its contract, this after a bombshell state audit released earlier this month, alleging millions of taxpayer dollars were spent in shady, under-the-table deals.
But tonight, the battle of epic proportions continues, and this time it's Epic taking a swing. News 4's Taylor Adams joins us live, where a marathon meeting just wrapped up after several hours. Taylor.
Well, Kevin, Joleen, it's actually not wrapped up. Board members are still inside in executive session. They're describing that bombshell audit as an attempt to claw back over $11 million back to the State Board of Education. They blatantly disagree with most of the allegations.
This is the United States of America. We shouldn't live in fear of our government bureaucracies.
Epic Charter School Board calling most of the 21 findings outlined in the state's investigative audit a pile-on job.
We have combed through this audit report, and you will not find one criminal statute cited that's been violated. It makes no sense.
One of the most serious allegations is that the virtual charter school underreported more than $8 million in administrative payroll. Epic's lawyers say the payroll wasn't reported because although certain employees have a supervisor title, they're not classified as administrative.
Hundreds of employees, they have the title director in their name or manager. And it's not necessarily because a director managed anybody.
Epic admitting to one allegation that services were provided to California without Oklahoma receiving payments on time, but say now the money is accounted for and that Oklahoma won't lose anything.
It was a mistake, but once we learned of the mistake, once the school learned of the mistake, it was paid back immediately. It was a gain for the state of Oklahoma because that means that California schools paid a portion of the salaries for these one-on-one employees. The cost sharing did work out. It was a gain for the state of Oklahoma.
Epic's board also addressing the virtual charter schools board decision to begin the process of terminating Epic's contract, saying Wednesday the vote was a shock. Now, with only 14 days to respond, the board scrambling because they say they haven't been given all the information backing up the allegations against them. Now, Epic will get a chance to defend itself to the virtual school board. That hearing is set for January 20th, and inside board members still have an entire other meeting to get through. That second meeting for the board for the school's virtual entity. Live, Taylor Adams, Oklahoma's News 4.
Thank you, Taylor. On the night beat, an Oklahoma City man and woman behind bars tonight. A sex trafficking bust right here in Oklahoma City, taking them both down after they solicited two minors for sexual activity. News 4's Austin Breasette is live on the story tonight. And Austin, this is still an active case right now.
Yeah, that's right, Joleen. Court documents show two female victims, ages 15 and 16. And the operation extended to prostitution websites. 21-year-old Stacia Gwynn and 25-year-old Brandon Carter sitting behind bars at the Oklahoma County Jail Wednesday night, accused of trafficking two Oklahoma City teenagers, just 15 and 16 years old. Court documents state that pictures of the two going by the pen names Honey and Nico were found on a well-known prostitution website, showing numerous sexually suggestive pictures, along with a contact number. The court documents also state that number led back to Gwynn, who would then set up appointments between clients and the teens through a texting app. Gwynn's boyfriend Carter was allegedly behind those prostitution ads and would often help Gwynn pick the teens up and drive them to their appointments. Gwynn and Carter busted during an undercover sting. The documents state an officer posing as a potential client was sent sexually explicit photos of the 16-year-old. The officer eventually agreeing to meet the girls at a Metro Hyatt place, where they agreed to perform sex acts in exchange for $400. Oklahoma City Police telling News 4 Wednesday night the investigation is still active and that the FBI and National Center for Missing and Exploited Children provided tips leading to the arrests. Well, police say they've also sent a request to the owners of the website to take it all down. And again, the case is still active. At the Oklahoma County Courthouse, Austin Breasette, Oklahoma's News 4.
And we know you'll follow it, Austin. Thank you. At least 11 bodies have now been unearthed during the hunt for victims of the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. 10 of them found in a trench at the Ogle Cemetery. At least one other potential body was found on Tuesday, all of them buried in wooden coffins in the area funeral home records indicate victims were buried back in 1921 after a mob of white rioters murdered an estimated 300 people, all of them black. It's still too early to tell if the bodies found today are actual victims of that massacre.
Now, first weather from the Forewarned Storm Team.
And summertime is back across Oklahoma, much warmer, 84 degrees today. Let's take a look at our sunset tonight. What a lovely Oklahoma evening we have out there. Mostly clear skies, and we have humidity in the air. Feels a bit like late May, 71 degrees outside. Here's the warm front that came through again this morning. It's 54 in Alva and 69 in Guymon. That's the southern edge of the cooler temperatures up in Kansas right now. Kevin and Joleen coming up in weather. Summer is back. Yes, it was 90 in Stillwater today, and that's not quite over, but I'm tracking two big-time cold fronts. First, a polar cold front. That's plenty cold. Then an Arctic cold front. That is the coldest of the cold, talking about record lows. Wintry precipitation, what appears to be a developing Oklahoma winter storm on that timeline moments away.
Thank you, Mike. Oklahoma no longer a top 10 state for new coronavirus cases. That is according to a White House task force report released by state officials today. We now rank number 11. Last week, we were number 9. Meanwhile, grim new milestones in Oklahoma's fight against the pandemic. Cases now topping 110,000 since March, with another record high number of hospitalizations, 910. It's also one of Oklahoma's deadliest days, with 19 more people losing their lives. According to the state health department's website, Oklahoma has just 87 ICU beds available statewide. That's 9%. Officials are still busy hammering out the new hospital surge plan. And
one of those deaths that Joleen just mentioned is a 68-year-old Del City man. He died this morning, 13 days after testing positive. News 4's Peyton Yager talked to his wife, and Peyton, she's obviously got to be shocked and very much in mourning right now.
She did. She spoke to me just hours after coming home from the hospital. She tells me her husband first tested negative, but he felt something was off, so he got tested again 2 days after that. He tested positive, and then 2 weeks after that, his death falling on one of Oklahoma's deadliest days.
Prayed over him, talked to him, tell him when it's time to go, you need to go. And I was okay with it.
Esther Saldana just back from the hospital, taking in her empty Oklahoma City home for the first time.
This is an ugly virus. This is ugly. I watched him take my husband away.
COVID-19 stripping away a 15-year marriage. Jerry Saldana dying Wednesday morning. Esther by his side.
When he went onto the ventilator, I knew already.
Nearly 2 weeks ago, the 68-year-old Air Force veteran rushed to the ER, quickly falling into a coma.
And we watched him from that point on just decline.
At the time, Esther recovering from COVID-19 herself, the first to test positive in late September.
Going through this experience has been awful.
Jerry, known for his selfless personality and infectious smile, a father of 5, a grandparent, a great-grandparent, and a longtime Tinker Air Force employee.
So a big part of me is missing.
A man of many roles that could never possibly be filled.
I'm at peace, and I know he is too.
Jerry was first brought to Integris Southwest on the south side of the metro, and then he was brought here to Integris Portland to find him a bed and a ventilator for him. I reached out to Integris today. They responded. They said this is very common right now, especially right now, to shift patients within their system to find them the equipment they need. Live in Oklahoma City, Peyton Yager, Oklahoma's News 4.
Peyton, thank you. Thinking about Jerry's wife and all those that have been touched by COVID. Meanwhile, the CDC issuing a warning about a, quote, distressing trend in the nation's battle against the coronavirus, saying that cases are increasing in nearly 75% of our country.
I recognize that we are all getting tired of the impact that COVID-19 has had on our lives. We get tired of wearing masks, but it continues to be as important as it's ever been, and I would say it's more important than ever as we move into the fall season.
The agency's deputy director for infectious diseases, Dr. Jay Butler, says the CDC is expanding who is considered to be a close contact. Previously, it was someone, within 6 feet of a positive case for more than 15 minutes. Now, it's someone who has had a series of shorter contacts that over time added up to 15 minutes. The CDC says they do expect there will be enough vaccines for everyone who wants one by the end of March or April.
From your local election headquarters, federal officials say Iran is behind a flurry of emails sent to voters bullying them into voting for President Trump. It was a dramatic revelation, short on details, though. A top intelligence official claiming the emails are bullying Democrats to change their affiliation. And we told you about an OU student who got one of those emails earlier today. Officials blaming both Iran and Russia for obtaining publicly available voter registration information. However, those officials ensure everybody that the integrity of the upcoming election remains sound. And that announcement coming on the eve of President Trump and Democratic challenger Joe Biden's final face-off, the two preparing to meet in Nashville for their last debate before election night. You can watch it live right here on News 4. The showdown starts at 8, but our coverage starts at 7. The debate will be moderated by NBC News White House correspondent Kristen Welker.
Next in weather.
It was 90 in Stillwater today, but Oklahoma weather says hold on. What do you get with unusually cold, record low temperatures and a strong storm system coming up and over that Arctic air? The answer appears to be a winter storm, folks. The timeline on that is next.